Hey, how's everyone doing? Just want to do a quick PSA regarding to Star Wars The Old Republic. Some of you may have noticed that the videos pertaining to this category, or maybe the entire playlist, have disappeared. That's because I have privated the entirety of the playlist. A reason for that was because a lot of the videos have been copyrighted. Not striked or anything, but just copyrighted by UMG on behalf of Disney because of the music for Star Wars The Old Republic. So that's not a problem initially. I kind of expected that they would copyright because of the music. And the only thing that affects me is that, I cannot monetize any of the videos, which is fine. My channel wasn't monetized anyway. So if they choose to put ads on all those videos pertaining to the gameplay that I show for that, that's fine with me. What's not fine with me is that the latest video that I uploaded was blocked due to metadata, according to UMG. So altogether, I would have episodes that would be missing in between. So if that's the case, I don't see any incentive as to continue making this series if suddenly I have one or two video in between that would be just cherry picked and plucked from the playlist. There's going to be a big gap in between. Um, it's not something that I would be disputing. They certainly have the right to block it because maybe there was a piece of music or something that was not really released, and they have all the right to do so. But I just find it funny how I'm trying to just do gameplay video of Star Wars The Old Republic, a game that has been out for like a long time. And, I hope that maybe some audience out there that are not familiar with the game would find it interesting to actually delve into it and check it out. Not necessarily say that, I'm helping them boost player base or whatever. The game has been out for so long, but this is not this is basically how you deter people, if you're gonna do that. I just want to make the quick video about it, why we'll be stopping this series altogether. Um, at this point, there's no point for me to dispute it. Again, they can do whatever they want with it. They own the rights to the music. I certainly could have played the entirety of the gameplay by muting the music, the in-game music, but this is Star Wars, like without the music, it just seems incomplete, and it didn't seem like a big deal to me personally. Again, I expected them to copyright it, probably not strike it, but copyright it so that they in turn monetize off my video, which is fine, whatever. I just didn't expect them to block it altogether. It's retarded, in my honest opinion. I'm sorry if I'm going off a rant, but uh, long story short, I've been playing Star Wars: The Old Republic literally when it was in beta. I was one of its founders, and some of you that is familiar with the game would know how there was a great forum purged in the past. Back then, if you criticize the game even for a little bit, and it's constructive criticism for the most part, to be fair, you do anything like that, they would literally ban you on the forum. It makes zero sense why they would do something like that. And people that were unfortunate, that were purged from the forum altogether, banned from that altogether, went on to Guild Wars 2. It was something that both communities are very familiar with. So fast forward, the game was released, and as a founder, despite what I knew in beta, I still gave the game a shot. Played it through. It's Star Wars. It's nostalgic. It plays on that. It's a Bioware game that goes through the story, and they have wonderful storytelling. I don't think I need to tell most of you how most of the budget for this video game went straight to basically the voice acting. That was their biggest bread and butter, was that almost every line was voiced. And that's where all the budget was blown. Fast forward when you're done with the entirety of the game, what do you have left? You have PvP, you have the flashpoints, which both are pretty interesting. But just like any MMO, eventually you'll hit a wall and then you'll kind of fall off. Once you've explored everything, done everything, and they try to get you hooked back in, considering it's a subscription-based game. They released the Starfighters. At the beginning, it was kind of clunky, but I believe they improved it over time. Where it's okay. It's kind of like parts of other video games, like I believe Battlefield had something similar when they did that. So you have something like that was added onto the game. More PvP, and along the way they added a little bit more of a raid content and flashpoints. But over the years, the development team has died down significantly, especially when they released the cartel coin. That was the biggest thing. That's like kind of like almost every EA game where they release microtransaction. It's not game breaking because it's cosmetic, but it's kind of like one of those signs where it says, "Hey, we're losing player base, we're losing subscription base. We need to get our money back somehow. So let us throw out a cartel market out there, to keep the game alive and make our money back." And as the years go by, content was getting less and less scarce. I mean, for those that are in the Old Republic community, you guys probably would know what I'm talking about, like Legacy of the Sith. That's content that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, would take you less than an hour, tops. I mean, if you rush through the content, probably 15 minutes and you're done. And that's considered an expansion. That's outrageous. I mean, I played through all the expansions, like since the beginning all the way towards the end. It's insane. I just can't understand like how did we came so far with a full staffed development team, and at some point they say that they're gonna cut staffs from this development team over and move them over to a different video game. It's not unheard of that they shuffle staff, but altogether they literally cut like a majority of the development team, moved them elsewhere, but left a void. And they slowly but surely release some content. I think towards the end of the years, I mean, around like Eternal Throne, all they did was really just fix certain aspects of the game, or patch them. That's basically it. Um, Honestly, though, I think out of all the expansions, like what you see on the screen, you have the original game, and then you have the Hut Cartels expansion pack. That was, I guess, okay, adding on. The biggest thing was the Revan expansion. That was pretty awesome, introducing a Revan back, considering a lot of us play Knights of the Old Republic. We also got a new companion as well. So that was pretty cool. I do enjoy that fight. They definitely hit the nostalgic key with that. But then everything took like a weird turn when we started doing the Eternal Thrones expansion. Like, it was definitely a fresh new take on the story altogether, and was pretty decent. It just kind of miss in, like, how should I say this? It's not really considered spoiler in my opinion. I guess if I were to delve into that topic, so you suddenly find yourself fighting a third faction. Normally with Star Wars, it's either Sith or Jedi, but suddenly you have Valkorian, a third faction that you're fighting. And they go through this expansion where they took away your companions, which is one of those biggest controversies things out there. I'm not going to get too into it, but overall, they took away every companion that they ever gave you and slowly release it back to you, which is ridiculous. But anyway, Valkorian's story, you suddenly find yourself playing like a rebel faction, fighting Valkorian's faction. There's no more talk about Jedi or Sith. That was like, the biggest thing with it's almost like World of Warcraft, Alliance versus Horde, and then you suddenly say there's none of that. You just toss that out the window. Okay, it's just you by yourself representing, NPCs as a rebel faction against the Empire. Okay, fine. So you defeat the Empire, and then what happens? You basically can opt to be the pseudo emperor of this third faction, or you can, I guess, liberate this third faction to run itself as a democracy. But all in all, it's almost as if they're trying to end the story of the Old Republic thereon. Because where else can you go at that point? You basically made the own entire expansion about Sith and Jedi working together to stop Valkorion. Okay, and then what happens? They don't even know where the heck they're gonna take this. And Legacy of the Sith. All right, let's get both Jedi and Sith fight each other again. It's the same move that World of Warcraft made. It's almost like the same mistake, where both Horde and Alliance work together, and then they screwed their dynamic up with the game, and they need to somehow rectify that. And what happened in the pre-Legacy of the Sith? You're given a choice to rejoin the Jedi, the Republic, or the Sith. You know, or you can stay as the emperor or whatever with the third faction, depending on your choice. But it really doesn't really matter because overall they want to steer the story back towards that conflict. That's what made the game Jedi versus Sith, you know. And it's a really hard push considering you stir us down a path specifically in Eternal Thrones, and now you do a hard left, go back to the way it was before. I mean, at that point, you might as well just cut out Eternal Thrones as if it doesn't exist. What's the point, It really kind of like seems like it's a waste of an entire expansion. Granted, it introduced a lot of cool stuff, cosmetics and everything like that, but it just seems like a way to like not needed, like entire expansion as not needed. And the worst part about that expansion, in my honest opinion, was they gave you the choice. I guess at that point choice does matter, where you can actually kill off one of the two companions among your specific class, so to speak. So so for example, the Sith warrior can choose between sparing the life of Vet or Tobin, I believe his name was, a Mandalorian. So one of them would get killed while the other one spared, depending on your choice in the story. That would be a hard choice that they give you. And along the way, you would get a couple of new companions as well, depending on your choice, like Arkin or Cena, and all that fun stuff. But there's definitely some flaws. I'm not trying to say that Eternal Thrones overall was a bad expansion. There's definitely a lot more flaws in that particular expansion that I find compared to the past other expansion iterations. One of the biggest crime that Eternal Throne did, in my honest opinion, story-wise and the cinematic, was that you have to craft a lightsaber to fight Valkorian. Or was it Arkin? I'm sorry. It's been a while, so I don't remember too clearly. But I remember you had to craft it, and that's all fine and everything if you're force sensitive. But it makes zero sense if you're playing something like an Imperial agent or somebody that wields a blaster as a weapon. Why are you crafting a lightsaber? And it's just a cutscene, but still, it's so weird. And that's another thing that I'm overcritical about the game was that since day one, as a founder, I've often find myself asking them like, how come you don't take this game in this direction? Why go down that direction? You think that you want this game to succeed. you find that, if you go down this route, it's kind of really mundane and mainstream. Why don't we do something that is different, You try to offer those kind of criticism. I mean, and ultimately, it's up to the developer whether they listen to you or not. And people like me, we might not be correct, Like, I would find myself often give suggestions as to like, hey, maybe we shouldn't lock um story and class together. You have to pick a specific class in order to go down a specific story, and picking a specific class lock you to that weapon, which in turn the abilities. Maybe we shouldn't do that. One of the thing that Star Wars did right, in my honest opinion, was the affinity thing. So you could be light or dark side, like force sensitive, and depending on which side you're kind of like aligned to, I think at the time when I was thinking, it was more like if you align more to the light side, dark side, you should be able to do like interchangeable abilities, so to speak. So if you're more to the dark, doesn't matter, say if you're a Jedi counselor, your ability should gradually be replaced by the opposite of what it is on the Sith side. So that was something like along the lines what I was thinking of. And it would be something that is cool, like you could actually do kinetic abilities with a Jedi, but at the same time you could use like a lightning, because you're a little bit going towards the dark, like level one. Um, and I was hoping maybe that you could do something similar with non-force sensitive classes. Like if you maybe they have their own affinity type. That would be something interesting. My original suggestions was that how come we don't do a spider web kind of ability thing where you put points in one, it unlocks other type of ability and it chains towards that, like, so if I put 1 point into saber, single-handed saber kind of unlocks this ability or that ability, which kind of makes sense. But I know that's something hard to be implement considering they literally tie everything down to the class story and faction. you know it's really hard to redo the entire mechanic of the game when you do something like that. Ironically enough, like they threw some of their like past mechanic out the window. Like right now in Legacy, we can now what basically choose to be a Sith, play on the Sith side, but be able to access Jedi Counselor abilities. Granted, if you have a character that has affinity towards the light or dark or whatever, it's like if you're gonna do a job, you might, part of the way, you might as well go all the way, Just make it so that instead of tying everything down to a class, just open up all the abilities. They redid the skill tree multiple time anyway. And you know what? I know I'm just saying it, but it might not even fit into the state of the game right now. Considering down to the end, the story is tied to the faction, and the class is tied to that. It's hard to break away from it. They literally have to redo everything. If I had a say in this, if this was back then in beta, I would say kind of try to make it something like uh where we make a character and don't say that we start out from Jedi or Sith. We just make a character, we choose a origin planet, and then from that part on, we get to interact some of the NPCs on that particular planet of choice, which at that point, depending on our choices and the quest that we undertake, and also more importantly, when we gain level on basic quests, we can unlock certain abilities. It would then steer us towards the path of whether we're gonna go down a Jedi Force sensitive storyline or something else. I would have done something like that, because at that point you're not hard pressed on just picking that and that's what you are. Because right now, Legacy of the Sith, that seems to be kind of what they are doing. They want to offer some flexibility to the user. Like, oh, you can be a sniper, imperial sniper, but you can suddenly use a blaster, and all that because all the gunnery is interchangeable with the loadout now. Same thing with Sith. You could be a Jedi Counselor ability, or whatever. You could be a Sith warrior, but have Sith lightning by accessing the Sith sorcery trees and abilities. They try to make it flexible, but at the same time, it's kind of like an illusionary wall. You're still locked down and tied down to that story. I find it funny, when I'm making these videos as a Sith warrior, but have the ability of a Sith sorcerer, because it kind. I mean, you're using less of saber abilities and more of lightning, which is kind of ironic as a Sith warrior. Um, but it's pretty interesting. It does definitely gives the game a new freshness to it. But again, I always find it funny. Like, why can't I use a lightsaber in one hand and a blaster in the other? And certainly enough, there's a variety of reasons. There's animation limitations, but more importantly, that's not how the game started out. They have to, again, redo everything. And back to my original idea, if we have like a spider web kind of ability tree, where it unlocks passive as well as active abilities, depending on where we put our point. If I put one point into Saber, and Saber level 1, level 2, like we had in the past when the game started out, um, you know, at a certain level of the Saber, it unlocks more and more in this spider web kind of design of a branch to unlock more force sensitive abilities. But then that doesn't mean that I would strictly go down that path. Maybe I want to reserve one point in the blaster pistol or whatever, and then suddenly I can hold a blaster in the other hand, shoot while I use a saber combat abilities. It all comes down to how they would design this kind of spidery web thing. Of course, you're not going to have like a two-handed blaster and a saber. They would definitely have something where they're going to have to make that spider web kind of interconnect, but not everything together, and kind of shuffle the ability so that everything would be balanced. Um, but I would definitely do something like that, like it's not unheard of where you have a Mandalorian force sensitive, it'd be cool if I can use a flamethrower and then a dark saber in another hand, like Vizsla did in the canon story. But that's not the path that they took, and I am somewhat disappointed in the beginning. But I played the game, just as is, and definitely, if it's not flawed with how the cinematic plays out with the lightsabers scene that I just said, or it's something entirely stupid, Like we went through, I think, two iterations of the skill tree already, maybe even more, like why are we doing this? You know, it might work out for some people, but for legacy players like me, I'm like, what the hell is this? I have to redo everything, relearn all my abilities, recopar all my abilities, figure out what the hell I'm gonna do because there are abilities that were there is no longer there, and it's frustrating. It's almost like you have to relearn the game all over again. I mean, it brings about, some freshness to it, but at the same time, some frustration as well. Um, Again, like I really love all the expansions, even Eternal Thrones. They all have its own respective charm. But honestly, Legacy of the Sith, like the amount of content, it's not that I don't understand, They don't have a big development team like they did in the past anymore. But I mean, if you were to YouTube any content creator of the Star Wars The Old Republic community, they probably would say something similar to what I'm saying, It's almost as if over the years the development team just don't care. You know what they care about? The cartel coin. That's still around. Everybody knows that they have to make back their money somehow for the voice acting. And let's be honest, over the years, you don't even have every dialogue that is voiced anymore. It's replaced by Knights of the Old Republic text. Some character might still voice a few lines, but then overall you just pick like text choices. No longer do they actually say anything much anymore. You don't even have a dialogue wheel for some of these things anymore. Yeah, it's like I really don't know where the state of the game is gonna go at this point. I've been, like I say, I've been playing it since beta as a founder. And you know what? It's not that I just, throw a few bucks towards the game and that's it and forget about it. No, I actually subscribe to the game from the beginning. And granted, I stopped subscribing here and there, and every time I return back, I would resubscribe again. Because even when you stop subscribing, they lock you out on a lot of stuff, like the limitations with the credits. You can only access 1 million credit of the total amount that you have on you. So it's like, hey, we let you free to play now. You don't have to subscribe, but we're gonna hit you hard with a lot of limitations. Fine, whatever, but I don't want to deal with the limitations. I choose to subscribe. That's my choice. But again, I subscribe. I'm although I'm kind of critical on the cartel market, again, it's just cosmetic. I'm guilty of it too. I splurge on the cartel market. I didn't buy everything in the cartel market, but I definitely splurged on it. You know, I gotten a couple of pieces over the years here and there on the cartel market. So, it's not that I'm a free to play player, I support this video game. Overall, Star Wars, it's like it hits you with the nostalgia. The story is good, not the greatest. It hits you with the nostalgia because it's Star Wars, with the music and everything too. It brings you back to a time before they crap on Star Wars like today. That's what makes the Old Republic great. But then I feel like we're hitting a wall with this ever since around Eternal Thrones and on. I don't know where they're gonna take this game. Um, I know a lot of people are saying like this is the end of Star Wars. The game is so old, blah 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 blah. But I don't know if that to be a fact. But I can definitely tell you that the player base is not there like it once was. Um, it's like at some point they stop caring about PvP and moving on, they stop caring about flashpoints. There's not much content, like endgame content. I find myself playing over and over on the story because that's one of its greatest strengths. But that's its only strength. It's the only reason I find myself playing. I mean, I'm a big Flashpoint and PvP guy when the game first came out. I played Hutball back then. It was really fun. It was a great mechanic. Um, but they just don't do much with any of this. Same thing with the Starfighters. When that first came out, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. A little janky, but it's okay. And then they improved on it, but that's about it. There's nothing much with it anymore. They never improve upon the existing mechanics towards those content. They never add new content. I find myself at a loss. It's hard to defend a game like this. And yes, I do make gameplay video of it, but that's just for the sake of making it. It's because I find that that's the most fun part and the most engaging part of this game is the story. You can't argue with that. And so I want to make gameplay video of it, um, even though I am critical with a little bit of things here and there with the entirety of the game, overall, I do find myself enjoying it. It's something that you put aside and it sucks you back in over time because of the story. But I don't know. I mean, I would still play Star Wars The Old Republic. I would still run my Sith Warrior with a sorcery ability. I'll still play that, but I will not make videos of it anymore, unfortunately, considering UMG took their time and blocked the video. I don't see there's really any incentive to make any videos of it. You know, you want to bring attention to a really old game, and maybe somebody want to like play it for free just to check it out. Some Star Wars fans out there want to check it out, if they haven't already, or maybe some player base out there that have nothing to do because a lot of AAA title have let them down already by now, or maybe you're a Final Fantasy 14 guy like me, and you find yourself waiting for the new story, and you hit end game already, you have nothing to do, maybe you want to blow your time on this in the meantime, and you can't go wrong with Star Wars. I mean, it's not like the movies right now, but you can't go wrong with the Star Wars, the Old Republic era, especially if you play Knights of the Old Republic. So it's something that I want to bring attention to those kind of folks if they're not aware of it already. Like, hey, check it out. In Legacy of the Sith, they made some changes. Maybe it's worthwhile to come back and check it out. And I was planning to play the game from again the beginning all the way to Legacy of the Sith, but now I'm just gonna play it behind the scenes. UMG want to block my video on behalf of Disney, so claiming the music. Again, I have no problem for them to monetize, copyright and monetize off all the gameplay video with this. Just why would you block it? Because of a metadata, missing metadata, because probably a piece of music that was never released and they can't identify or whatever, but they own it or something stupid like that. But I'm not gonna dispute it. They have all right to do so, but I just can't believe they block it. Like a really old game like this, and me that is not a monetized channel. Like I don't think there's a lot of games that I play that I know of, not even Final Fantasy, would block my content, because you want to bring attention to your video game and try to garner attention and bring, new players into the game. You want the attention, but for whatever reason, Star Wars, they're like, no, 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 that belongs to us. Don't do anything with our crap. Mute the music. I know that there's some games out there that does the same thing, but it's hard to find a video game nowadays that really kind of does some BS like this. Um, and that's all I want to say, It's just a PSA video. I'm sorry that I went on a rant for 30 minutes and stuff, but I don't often make, you know, videos with a voiceover like this, because there's not really much for me to talk about, in my honest opinion. I'd rather have people watch my video and decide for themselves. I make these videos just for the sake of making it. If people want to watch it, they watch it. If the people don't, they don't. Um, I'm glad one of my popular videos in Elden Ring, a lot of people, it garner some attention. People watch that and they think that one of those, I don't want to say exploit, but it's kind of like an exploit. They say that they didn't believe me, and when they tried it out themselves, it actually worked. I'm glad that it worked out for them. Um, I don't know if the exploit still works. I would like to think that they didn't patch it, but it's something like that. I want to make videos like that where it's useful or helpful at least to people that might come upon it, and there was a whole reason why for that particular video I never do an edit cut. I try to keep it in its original state, because God forbid nobody would believe me when I do the exploit if I make it into cuts. If I make it like one whole video, it's impossible for me to cut and fake it. I don't want them to say, hey, it's probably fake, but let me check it out still. No, I want to make it as convincing as possible, because I'm not out there to fool anybody, with the video that I'm making. And that's basically that, guys. So if you ever wonder why I don't do any more Star Wars: The Old Republic, it's because of this reason. Again, sorry if I went on a tangent, but yeah, I see you guys next time.